All right, guys. Today, we're going to go back over some algebra. All right. So if you'll remember, slope in algebra was a common thing because you used it a lot in graphing lines, didn't you? Okay. Slope actually has a very huge use in upper math, especially calculus, because the slope tells you how something changes. Okay, and that's what calculus is. It tells you how much something changes in a particular time. Okay. So, the slope, S-L-O-P-E, is the measure of a steepness of a line. Okay? The slope is the ratio of a line's vertical change, called its rise, over its horizontal change, called its run. Okay? Now, let's think about this. The steeper a line is, the bigger the slope is. So think about that. What do you think is going to have a steeper slope? Something with a slope of 2 or something with a slope of 8? What's going to have a steeper slope? Something with a slope of 2 or slope of 8? 8, right? But let me flip the script a little bit. What's going to have a steeper slope? Something with a slope of 8 or a slope of negative... I take that back. Something with a slope of 1/5 or a slope of negative 8. What's going to have a steeper slope? Something with a slope of 1/5 or a slope of negative 8? Negative 8 is still going to have a steeper slope, isn't it? Even though 1/5 is bigger than negative 8, negative 8 is still going to have a steeper slope. Okay? So, we should say that the bigger the absolute value is, the steeper the slope is. Alright? So, positive slopes go up from left to right. Okay? So if I'm on a graph, there's the X, there's the Y, positive slopes go up from left to right. Alright? Negative slopes go which direction, do you think? Down from left to right. And I'm about to do a cheer for you. I'm going to be a cheerleader today. Alright? So negative slopes go down from left to right. So this is a positive slope. This is a negative slope. Zero slopes. If you have zero slope, that is a horizontal line. And finally, undefined slopes are vertical lines. When do you think you would probably get undefined slope? Vertical lines. Number-wise. We'll do that in a minute. All right, I'll ask that here in just a minute. All right. So horizontal slopes that's a zero slope. And then an undefined slope will look something like that. That's what undefined slopes. All right. Positive slopes, zero slopes, negative slopes, undefined slopes. All right. Positive, negative, zero, and undefined. Okay? I'll do the cheer later. All right? Because you can't see it on the video. So now, this is our review, isn't it? You did this back in Algebra 1. All right? Now, which is basically a review because when we get to the other stuff that we're going to use in geometry, we got to know stuff about slopes so we can determine whether lines are parallel or perpendicular. All right? Now, the equation for the slope of a line is, if you'll remember, it's rise over run. Okay? Rise goes up. When you rise, you get up, don't you? Well, rise can also mean down. Rise is up and down. Run is left and right. Okay? It is the change. Now, in math, we use delta. It's like a little triangle. We say delta y over delta x. That means the change in the y over the change in the x. The change in the y over the change in the x. So how does something change on the y? We're going to subtract it. We're going to do the second y minus the first y over the second x minus the first x. That's a 2. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So what you have to remember, because there are some questions on your on your Apex today that says, what's the rise mean? The change in your y values. We use the Greek symbol delta, or the Greek letter delta, to mean change in y over change in x. So delta y over delta x. That's what I've always been, or that's what you use in upper level math. Okay? So that's change in y over the change in x. All right? Any questions? All right, so let's use that. All right, so let's use that in finding the slope. So we've got a line here. What is the slope of the line of the following graph? Now, I've got 3 separate points on there. Which 2 do you pick? Doesn't matter. Pick whichever ones you want. Any 2. All right? So in this case, I'm going to do it 2 times, all right? I'm going to do it 2 times. This time I'm going to use 1, comma 15 and 2, comma 30. I'm going to use those 2 for your slopes. How much is the y changing? 30 to 15. What's 30 minus 15? What's 2 minus 1? 1. All right? So remember, your slope, we call that letter M. M is your slope, is your change in y over your change in x. So we'll do 30 minus 15 over 2 minus 1, which you said 30 minus 15 is 15. 2 minus 1 is 1. So it's 15. Okay? Simple enough, right? Now, let's use 2 other points, all right? You don't have to do this on your homework, but what if I used 3, comma 45, and 1, comma 15? Let's say I use those 2. You can use any 2. As long as they're on that same line, you can use any 2. We're going to say the slope equals 15 minus 45 over 1 minus 3. 15 minus 45 over 1 minus 3. So I'm going to do my calculator. 15 minus 45, negative 30. 1 minus 3, 1 minus 3, negative 2. Then all you got to do is simplify it. Negative 30 divided by negative 2. Negative 30 divided by negative 2 gives you positive 15. You get the same slope as long as the points are on that same line. Okay? So 15 is my slope, regardless of which 2 points and regardless of which order you put them in, isn't it? If I did this one, 15 minus 30, and then 1 minus 2, I'd still get a slope of 15, wouldn't I? Because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. All right? Any questions? Now, what do you think this number would be? Let's just say I gave you some numbers. What do you think the number would be if I had a zero slope? What would the top number be if I had a zero slope? No. Let's say I had a zero slope. Something like this. And let's say this is my... What kind of number do you think I would have? Let's say it's my slope. My slope is rise over run. What kind of top number do you think I would have? Zero. Zero would be my top number. The bottom number could be anything. Bottom number could be anything. It could be 5, a million, whatever. Because zero divided by anything is what? Zero. So when you ask yourself, when you think, what number times 0 times what will give you 0, that's what you get, all right? Now, let me ask you this. What would my slope look like in number form? What would the slope of my red line look like if I put it as a number? What would the bottom number be, do you think? 0. Why? Because think about what divide means. Let's say there's a number on top. Okay? Divide means divide means, like let's say I had 15 divided by 3. What divide means is 3 times what number will give me 15, right? Up here, let's say it's 5. 5 times what will give me 0? 0. 3 times what will give me 15? 5. So 15 divided by 3 is 5. So right here, 0 times what would give you a number? It's impossible, isn't it? 0 times anything is 0. It's not going to give you anything besides 0. So 0 times, let's say it's 18 divided by 0. 0 times what gives me 18? There's no number possible, is there? So anytime you get a calculator calculation of 0 on the bottom, let's say I do 18 divided by 0. Boom. Divide by 0. You can't do it. That's an error. Okay? So, anytime you get an error message in your calculator, that means it's an undefined slope. Okay? Alright, so let's look at some more. Okay? Let's look at some more. Alright, what is the slope of a line that passes through the points 6, 6 and 2, 2? Alright? So, let's go left to right. 6 is the first x that I see, so that'll be x1. This 6 will be y1. The 2 will be my x sub 2. The 2 will be my y sub 2. Alright? So your slope, m is what we use for slope, is the change in the y over the change in the x. And that's delta, not triangle, okay? Delta y over delta x. So it's going to be 2 minus 6 over 2 minus 6. 2 minus 6 over 2 minus 6. Let me show you what you could do in your calculator, okay? One thing you can do is you can hit math. Then you see up at the top it says math, number, complex, probability. You can go over to fraction and put n over d, and you can do 2 minus 6 on the top, then arrow down and do 2 minus 6, hit enter, and you get 1. So this has a slope of 1. Does everybody see how you can do that in your calculator? We'll do another one like that, because on your Google form today, I want to show you how I want you to put it into your computer, okay? Any questions? So this is all review, so we're good to go. Alright, so right here, let's do some negatives. Slope equals the change in your y over the change in your x. Delta y over delta x. Alright? So we'll do negative 8 minus 4 over 2 minus 1. Now, if you wanted to, guys, I'm okay with this. If you want to do 4 minus negative 8 over 1 minus 2, that's fine. But here's the key. Make sure that you keep them consistent. In other words, if I do negative 8 minus 4, I have to do 2 minus 1. I cannot do 1 minus 2. Does that make sense? Or if I do 4 minus negative 8, I have to do 1 minus 2. So you either do left over right or right over left, not interchanging. All right? Here's what I'm saying. M equals, you can also do 4 minus negative 8 over, but if you do 4 minus negative 8, you have to do 1 minus 2. Either way, negative 8 minus 4, okay, we can do this in the calculator. We can hit math, we can arrow over to fraction, and then we'll do negative 8 minus 4 over 2 minus 1, gives me a slope of negative 12. Now, do the same thing with the other one. Fraction. 4 minus negative 8 over 1 minus 2. Boom, gives me the same thing. You get the same slope as long as you stay consistent. Okay? Any questions? Now let me ask you a question. What's going to have a steeper slope? Something with a slope of 2 or something with a slope of negative 12? What's going to have a steeper slope? Everybody hear what he said? He said negative 12. Anybody think that 2 is going to have a steeper slope? No. Now, which number's bigger? If I were to ask you, which would you rather have, $2 or owe me $12, you would say $2. But the negative 12 is the steeper slope because it goes farther up before it goes left or right. Okay? All right. So, let's go on to the next slide. So let's find this slope. All right? Slope is the change in the y over the change in the x. Change in the y over change in x. So, I'm just going to, I always do the one on the right minus the one on the left. That's just me, the way I've been taught. 2 minus 3 over negative 1 minus 4. Okay, 2 minus 3 over negative 1 minus 4. So I'm going to, another thing you can do, if you don't want to keep hitting math and then go on over to frac all the time, you can just arrow up and capture the last fraction like that, and then you can go up and you can just delete buttons right there. You can delete like so. You can delete everything. Okay? And then do 2 minus 3, and then go to the bottom and delete everything. Do negative 1 minus 4. You get a fraction this time, don't you? You get a fraction of 1/5. Now let me tell you what I want you to do on your Google form today. You can't really do fractions on top of one another like that on your Google form, can you? You can't do fractions like that. So, on your Google form today, what you're going to do, your Google form answer, you're going to put the 1, then you're going to hit the slash 5. Okay, 1/5. Alright, you're just going to put it side by side. Basically, it's going to look like the old calculator used to do. Here's the old calculator. 1 divided by 5, and if I wanted to leave that as a fraction, I'm going to leave it like that. 1/5. Okay? And make sure you use the slash button above the question mark. Okay? Make sure you use the one above the question mark. Does that make sense? Because I think there's other forward slash or something like that, or backslash. I don't know. All right, are we good there? All right, let's do number 6, and then we'll call it a day. All right, do number 6, and then we'll call it a day. Your slope equals the change in what over the change in what? What's the change? What's the top number? The change in which letter? Y over the change in X. All right. So here we go. We're going to do negative 4 minus 7 over 4 minus 4. What's going to happen here? Not a zero slope. It's an undefined slope. So let me show you what the calculator will do. So here's what you're going to do. Math, fact, negative 4 minus 7 on the top, 4 minus 4 on the bottom. Hit enter. It's going to give you error, divide by 0. If it ever gives you error, divide by 0, it's going to be undefined. On your Google form today, I don't think there's any undefined, so you won't have to type undefined. All right, because I know some of you would want to put UND or U or whatever, so I didn't put any on there. If it's a zero slope, put the number 0. Don't put the letter or the word. All right, guys, that's it.